All right, so are we recording, Eunice, just to confirm?
Yes.
Put me
All right.
in.
All right, so I'm going to call the meeting to order, and the first thing we need to do, just to let everybody know, today we were informed that all meetings will be recorded, so in case you didn't hear, we are recording the meeting. And also, we all need to identify ourselves and what position or what our status is on the council. So my name is Charles Bergamo. I'm the parent of a child with a disability, and I serve as a chairperson. Marina?
Marina Diamond. And I'm the funny one.
And you're the vice chair, am I correct, Marina? Thank you.
I'm sorry, when you say our position on the council, I'm like, we have no positions. What position? You're the only one with a position.
Well, you're the vice chair, come on.
Okay, fine. Okay, fine. I'm sorry. I'm just punchy.
Yeah, that's okay.
Continue. Yes. Okay, vice chair of the council.
There you go.
Of a person of two people with disabilities.
Karen?
It's Karen Simon. I am the parent of a young man who is in the self-determination program for DDS, and I am also an education advocate for kids mostly on the spectrum, but really all disabilities.
Arlene?
Hi, I'm Arlene Steinfeld. I'm the parent of a Down syndrome woman who lives in a group home in Ridgefield.
And Mickey?
My name is Mickey Herbst. I'm the parent of Jenna, who receives supports at STAR and also has her own staff under self-determination.
Is Eunice, is there anyone else online, either on the phone or
No.
on the, no,
Fritz,
okay.
Fritz is participating, but there's no public.
Okay.
Fritz Goss, Regional Director.
Right. So I have an agenda, and the first thing we need to do is review and approve the meeting from the last agenda. So if everyone's had an opportunity to review same, I'll entertain first a motion to approve the minutes, and then if there's any discussion, and then we'll vote. So anyone feel free to make a
I
motion.
move to approve the minutes.
All right, any discussion on the minutes? Changes, amendments, deletions?
Nope.
All right, hearing none, I will second the motion to approve the minutes. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, all right. So moving on, is there anyone from the public? And Eunice, I think you indicated we have nobody on the phone or no one else who's
No.
joined the Zoom meeting, or Microsoft Teams meeting, I should say.
Yes.
All right, there being nobody from the public to participate or ask questions, we move on to my report. So I think, I know Eunice was kind enough to send out, I did send an email up to Krista, and I'm not gonna try and pronounce her last name right now, dealing with the issue of a guardian being paid by DDS as a caregiver, which is not permitted. A parent can get paid as long as they're not the guardian. We all know that, but the guardian cannot get paid. And so I asked, well, how can we go about changing this rule? And I sent you the email response I got, which was basically, well, we're looking at it, and there's a stakeholder, and we got to change the statute, and we got to have public meetings, et cetera, et cetera. So my next step is to ask the chairs of the other regional councils to chime in, so to speak, and request that this particular process or this particular notion, idea, gain some traction. And since we're an advisory council, and that's our only function, I'd like our council to adopt a sense of the council that we would advise the regional director, who we know can't change the role, but who can at least understand that what we believe it's important to be changed, and that he can then run it up to those people who he thinks he should run it up to. That it's our advice that this rule, that they begin the process to implement a change to this rule. Because no one's given me a reason why guardians should not be paid. Other states permit it. So I don't know what the initial thinking was why guardians wouldn't be paid. and why they haven't changed it. I know they suspended it during COVID, but that's a different issue. Um, unless somebody thinks this is a bad idea, or if you and the council, let's have some discussion, and then we can make a motion to request Fritz to kind of inform the powers that be that our council at least is, would like to see action taken to change this rule.
And I chimed in that, you know, I'm advocating for kids that are transitioning out of the school system and they have no place to go and they have no staff. And so the parent has to quit in order to be home with their kid right now because there's nothing. I mean, there's money for them, but they can't find staff. So they have no choice but to stay home, and they're going to be losing income because they had to quit their job in order to do it or take a leave. So I think it's a great idea.
Any other comments? Anyone who thinks it's a bad idea or shouldn't happen at all?
No,
There-
sorry, I support the idea, but I also wonder, should we expand it beyond the 3 racks? And also, I'm just wondering about other councils, like the DD Council or the Governor's Council or whatever it's actually called, the one that everyone calls the Governor's Council, which also are DDS focused councils. And in front of them as well?
Yeah, just so you know, Walter Glom, who you know, he's the one who gave me Krista's name. And I've talked to him about this becoming something that the Developmental Disability Council also gets behind.
Right.
Right. So it's not just the regional council, but your point is well taken. There's also the state council, right? There's not just the 3 regional councils. I believe remember, we have the big meeting where we all get together with the state council, right? We should, run it up the flagpole to them too, to see if they can get behind it. Now, I think at the end of the day, there's going to have to be also some legislative action or political action involved where people start calling their representatives or senators and saying, saying that this is a rule we should change. I think it's a no-brainer, frankly, because we're not asking for money. This does not change the budget. There's no ask for money here. It's just it's just difference in who's getting paid the money. Nor am I suggesting that every guardian should get paid. I mean, that's why their case managers exist, right? I mean, case managers exist to make a determination as to whether or not the person's getting proper care and, is this person, should this person or guardian get paid to do this? It's not meant to be, hey, you're the guardian, here's money, God bless. But they're actually rendering care, like as you indicate, Karen, in a situation where there is no day program, but we have funding. I got to quit my job to watch my kid. Well, until there is a day program, that would be a nice option. Also, everybody talks about, unless Fritz, you have some other information, that there is a staffing shortage. That is hard to find help. And it would seem to me that this would go towards not solving that issue, but being a partial solution, a little thing that one can do to find appropriate care for certain individuals. And that's all it's really asking, is to give the case managers the flexibility to say, yeah, the guardian can get paid, like in other states.
How many other states,
I don't know. I have I know New York does it, Kansas does it, a couple of other states, I believe, do it. I'm trying to get a feel from the group I belong to, the Academy of Special Needs Planners, how many states permit it, but I don't have I don't have the resource for somebody to go check, go 49 states and find out what they do, or maybe Walter might through the CMS, and maybe there's a contact down there who can tell us what states permit guardians to get paid versus what states prohibit it. I assume we're not alone, but maybe we are for all I know. And I don't know what the philosophical reason is. That would be very helpful too, so that at least it can be, maybe it's a reason from 60 years ago, and guardians, some guardians stole money. I don't know. And they said, hey, we can't pay guardians anymore. Or something of that nature. I have no idea.
So I have a question on Krista's response to your question.
Mhm.
And And in there, it says, as you know, DDS received temporary federal approval for the process during the pandemic. So obviously federal is an issue here. But also, it says it can pay parents and family members for supports. Parent, family member cannot be a guardian. I get that. Or the employer of record, or the parent of a minor child receiving support. So the parent, notwithstanding guardianship, it's saying both things about the parents. It can pay the parents, but the parent can't be a parent of a minor child receiving support. So I'm not clear on that. But
Well, if your child is under 18 and you're the
Oh.
parent but not the guardian, you can't get paid. If your
okay,
child, I believe if the child is over 18, although Fritz, there's something, what, the VSP program or VCB program, or which is like age 21 or 22, ages
Okay.
out of the school system, kind of quirky little role.
It's it's BSP, Behavioral Support Program.
okay, got it.
So,
So,
so in that, just Fritz, just to follow up on that program, even if the child is over 18, right? Parent can't get paid until the child is 21 or 22.
I believe so. I mean, it originally was BSP, Voluntary Service, and then it came out of DCF, and then I'm going to say back, 10, 12 years ago, DCF sort of transferred the whole program to us, and we changed the name to behavioral supports, because pretty much it was children under 22 that had behavioral issues, and there was a whole protocol for that program. Families had to be trained. Families had to provide 50% of the time, with their child in implementing the behavioral support program and stuff like that. So there's a whole protocol
And that
had
was
the family.
that was a good program. A lot of my clients, were part of that, and the reason being the kids were still pretty young and they needed professional behavioral support. And so did the parents. But as the kid gets older as an adult, it's no longer like behavioral support. It's it's vocation and it's adulthood. And so I think that was the difference, that all I could think of as why they didn't allow it is that there was some idea that the parents wouldn't do anything. They would just sit home with the kid and collect money or something. Now, my kid would never allow that to happen. He'd drive me completely crazy. So that's all I could think of. Why else would you insist that somebody, and as Marina brought up, if you're not the guardian, you can't make decisions for the child.
Right.
If you're watching the kid and something happens, you're really, you're really screwed.
Right. And then the fine point of, are you the guardian or not the guardian? If they were worried about any parent getting the money, then guardian or not guardian isn't the issue. So it's very confusing. Here's just sort of a reality check on timing. According to Krista's process, her point is you need a waiver amendment, and to get a waiver amendment, it needs public hearings in front of the legislature. And the legislature this year was a short session. Next year, that means every year is alternates short session, long session, short, long. That means next year's a long session. That means it starts in early January. So the earliest that anything can happen is January.
Yeah, and it's probably going to take us that much time to build the infrastructure, so to speak, the groundswell, to get it on the agenda. It is what it is, right? If we can get the rule changed, we get the rule changed. Fritz, just to clarify, is the behavioral support program still in place?
Yes.
All right. But not everybody's in the behavioral support program.
No, you have to, there has to be, there's a criteria
Yeah.
for what the behaviors are, and it's pretty much to maintain the individual within the home. And that's why there was extensive training for the family, and also with the, the professionals that also would come in and also assist. So it was always a 50-50 arrangement between family and behavioral specialists.
And that program for the person who's receiving the care would terminate at age 22 because that's the age at which you age out of the school system.
Hmm.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, it wasn't set up to be, an infinity type program that would go on and on forever. But there would be obviously the person wouldn't just be dropped.
Right.
There would be a transfer or
Mhm.
Move to another program.
They kind of
Yeah.
merge into the regular DDS,
Right.
essentially.
It kind of morphed the Birth to Three program, and that the parent had to be there. The parent had to be learning how to deal with the kid. The professionals would come in, and somebody, you always had to have either, well, it used to be the parent. Sometimes they allowed the guardian to do it, or if there was a sitter or something. But then it got to a point where, this was for the parents to try to learn how to manage their child. And it was very good, but a lot of it depended on who you got, what agency you got for the service. There were some that were phenomenal, like, IPP was really good, and Beacon Services was really good. And then you got some others not so good. And but the parent always had to be there, and that was part of the problem, even when it was voluntary services, because the parents are working, so they couldn't be involved in it.
And Fritz, do you know the reason why guardians can't get paid? I mean, other than it's being statute or that's the rule, but do you know the reasoning behind the rule?
I do not know. As I've learned from you, Chuck, it's a Connecticut thing. I thought it was a CMS rule. I mean, when COVID hit, it seemed like we had to jump through hoops to get CMS to allow us to let guardians get paid. So there was an allowance during COVID, and then there was that. For some reason, CMS came back and said that date ends as of, I can't remember the exact date it ended, and we try to extend it. I gotta believe, and I'll talk to Krista, I think it has to do with one of our waivers and how we have it written. If other states don't have it and it's not a federal across the board for all 50 states, I mean, this is all I'm assuming, but it's got to be the way we've written our waiver, and there's got to be an issue on, like you said, why did Connecticut do it so it couldn't be to pay guardians, and there may be some history that we had some issue with a person being the guardian and getting paid. So I'll try to unearth all those questions and see if we can come to some resolution.
Yeah, and that goes to Marina. That really goes to the January long session. If we're able to understand the history behind it, like why it's in place, and I'll make an absurd reason. They decided you can't pay a guardian because the word starts with the letter G, and words that start with the letter G, we can't pay people, right? And we're beyond words starting with the letter G. We're now
Chuck, I gotta believe that somewhere, and it could have been past administrations, they thought it was a conflict of interest. How can you be a guardian and make decisions for your child and then also get paid to take care of him? So that's all I can imagine.
I agree. I think that's the reason.
Because I mean, in a lot of families, the mother remains, or one of the parents. You shouldn't just pick on the mother. One of the parents remains the guardian, and maybe the other spouse does not, so they can get paid, and they can assist. So there's and we've had instances where families have been in dire need, but they refuse to give up the guardianship.
Well, especially if they don't have a spouse. What are they supposed to do?
Yeah, there's all kinds of machinations of combinations of what people their whole family situations and and how they, they get through each day.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I'll, when Eunice and I will work on a memo to send to central office based on what you guys just voted on in this meeting. And then I'll also talk to Krista to try to find out. And, I mean, Krista, as you all know, she replaced Siobhan Morgan. And Siobhan was in that position for as long as I can remember until she left DDS. So, she was in it for more than 20 years. So, Krista will probably, be able to, get some historical institutional knowledge on why.
And it might actually help parents sleep late at night, like me, who doesn't, my son has no siblings, and so there's nobody really to leave him to. But we have maybe cousins, and if they would know, as if we make them the guardian, that they could actually get paid for guardianship for my son, that would it would ease my mind that somebody will step forward to take care of him, to be the guardian. He's diabetic, epileptic, autistic. I don't sleep at night thinking of these things and
So-
and trying to stay healthy.
But remember, Karen, that they can get paid without being the guardian.
Well, but then who makes the decisions for them? Who would I trust beyond that to make
Well,
the
that's
decisions for them?
that's a different question.
Yeah,
Right,
exactly.
but I assume Fritz, that DDS is the guardian for certain individuals.
Is that true? Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's the case. Guardianship is a very specific legal designation.
But if there's
And
no family members, who becomes the
then the
guardian?
state will appoint a guardian
Guardian,
many times.
Right, so like a guardian ad litem, like an
Yeah.
attorney or somebody, but
But I mean, I can understand, as I'm hearing this discussion, I can understand the protection and advocacy side of this in terms of keeping some kind of advocacy separate from a parent, or a parent separate from the advocacy. So I can understand the thinking that put this together. I mean, I am the guardian, I think my wife as well, of Jenna, but we're not the caregivers. So we haven't run into this particular thing, and it's not an issue. If it were, and you have I could make an argument why the guardian should not be a paid caregiver.
in which case, by the way, I'm not saying every guardian should get paid. What I'm saying is that's why case managers exist, right? I mean, if they think
Exactly.
it's an inappropriate individual
Yeah,
to render care, right, then we're not gonna pay. Like, you can be the guardian because you can make decisions. Let me make an absurd analogy. A person who needs care needs hands-on care, right? They need to be helped up. They need to be, taken to the toilet. They need in and out of bed. But the parent's in a wheelchair and can't do that.
can't do it.
Well, you're not going to make them the caregiver, right? They can be the guardian, but you're not going to pay them to be the caregiver because they can't care for the person, right? They don't have the physical ability to do it. So all I'm suggesting is that there's the flexibility for the case manager and the parents and the guardian, whoever that might be, to make a decision whether or not the guardian is a right fit. So like in Karen, your case, where there is no day program and I need to quit my job to take care of my child, that sounds like a temporary fix, frankly, until there's a day program. The parent may not want to take care of the child. It's just like, I'm going to do it until there's some other alternative. At which point,
And
Yeah.
and during that period,
Most
that
don't.
parent could,
Most don't. Most
No,
yes,
they
please.
want to work their
take care of
job.
the kid.
And during that period, the parent could easily be the guardian
Mhm.
and wind up being reluctant caregiver. And in that regard, they're getting paid as the caregiver, not as the guardian, but they happen to be the guardian.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I think probably everybody else is more clear on this than I am, but I do believe you used the word flexibility, and I don't think there should be any group or any classification of individual that could be precluded from being a paid caregiver. I think the judgment on whether the caregiver needs to be paid, whether they're a guardian or unrelated, related person, has to do with the vetting of
Mhm.
them as an employee under the personal care statutes or requirements. So my question there would be, if a person has an individualized budget and the parent or guardian or a parent guardian is the paid caregiver, who's the employer of record? And how is that all going to work? And I know we have some of that going on now. I mean, I'm the employer of record for Jenna through Sunset Shores as the fiscal intermediary. But if I were also the caregiver and now I'm approving my own hours, that, this is diving into a black hole of difficulty.
But Mickey, that has nothing to do with whether you're the guardian or not. That just has to do with whether there's one person or two people. And that is not actually the same problem. I mean, that's just saying no parent could be a caregiver, right?
Right.
And
As I peel the onion, here, I'm just trying to think of what other issues we can possibly clean up at the same time.
Yeah,
But
so for sure,
I realize they're
you're both
distinguished.
filling out your own timesheet and stamping approved.
Yeah.
For sure, there's a potential conflict of interest. You could be lying about your hours, but
Sure.
that is not solved by the sort of hair splitting between guardian parents and non-guardian parents.
Correct. Absolutely.
It's just
a different subject. I get that.
Kind of wackadoodle.
Yeah, I get that.
And it may very well be that we can solve the parent guardian getting paid issue. But then at the granular issue of who's going to be the employer of record, maybe at this point it's, you can see it's an easy solution if there's two people in the if there's a mother and father, right? One's going to be the employer of record, the other one's going to get paid, right? I will ask my clients in New York who both get paid to watch their child, and both are parents and both are guardians, how New York handles employer of record issue.
They could have, Chuck, they could also possibly employ a goods and service person who would submit the timesheets. So it sort of like separates out the parent remaining guardian and then getting paid. But as Marina and just said, you're not like giving your time and stamping it approved and sending it in to an FI. So there's possibly somewhere else the timesheets go.
So does that, by the way, Fritz, if I'm doing self-determination, I'm a person with disability being serviced by DDS, and I have a budget, I assume I'm not my own employer of record, right? I mean, is there a vendor that handles that for that person?
Yeah, and there's an FI. You are the employer of record. You hire your own staff. You get to do that kind of thing. But then you verify the time that's been serviced, and then it gets sent into an FI for review.
Right, the fiscal intermediary.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
But I thought what DDS did during COVID made sense, and the parent got less than the budget. So that would encourage you to get somebody from the outside and get the budget, which we knew we really couldn't do because we couldn't go out anywhere. But you got less for it as opposed to what your budget was. You definitely weren't getting paid at your budget rate. And I thought that was pretty good because, parents can do it for so long, and then, you got to get, my son is physically able to go places and do things. And you have to be spry and physically adept at making sure he's not going to decide to drive the tractor over there. Maybe a few years, more like 20 years ago, I was certainly able to do that. I'm not able to do that right now. So it would be limiting as to, the function where he could go and what he could do. And therefore having a a person with him in the self-determination program that's very active and very creative is really helpful. But during COVID, we couldn't do any of that. And I was home and he was home, but I got paid less. And I was fine with that. It was something, because I work with the schools, and for the schools, they were out. So it kind of all made sense.
So I think we're all in a agreement that putting aside Mickey, peeling the onion stuff, that just in terms of having a guardian get paid, that's the sense of the council. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay. And Fritz, thank you for your offer to reach out to Krista and get
Sure.
some background information. That can
Okay.
that concludes my report. On to Fritz.
Couple things. The legislature has finished the session. We as a department feel DDS fared relatively well as far as the budget. We we still need to go through it and sort it out. Excuse me. But no major cuts like in past years where we were always told to, do something with 10% or, come up with different ideas. So I think the department is pretty satisfied. I may have mentioned this in the past, but back prior to COVID, each region tried to set up what we were calling transitional housing, and we RFP'd because we get stuck many times where individuals are stuck in the emergency room, or we do get people that are incarcerated and get out, and we, and the courts have no sympathy. They just say the person has done their time. They're out on June 15th. You need to have a place for them to live. So the North region was able to set theirs up a long time ago. We did the RFP. We never got anyone to bid on it. We did it again, and we got someone to bid on it, and we awarded it to them. And then, of course, at that time, there was no money in the budget to fund it. But going forward, we've been able to get it done. It's a 3-bedroom home in Wilton off of Route 7 that the region picked up many years ago via surplus, and we have used it a handful of times for emergencies. But now we have a provider who has it staffed, and it's not just open to the West region. The other 2 regions can, if we have a vacant bed, apply for admission. And it's a temporary housing, but at least it doesn't leave us, begging providers at times to find us something that could be inappropriate. So we're kind of excited that we finally got this up and running, and it actually started on Tuesday. And there's 2 individuals already in the home. And then we just got a couple of the referrals for the 3rd bed. So.
Would they double, like have the potential for 6 people, 2 people in a bedroom?
I don't know. It's a small cape. It's pretty isolated, which I guess is just where it is in Wilton. But no, it would, and the funding that we got for it is for staffing for the 3 people. So I mean, we might be able to, if there was a real issue with a 4th person, but never 5 or 6. Plus, there'd be probably licensing issues and fire code issues if we had more people sleeping in there than we propose to have it set up that way. And we're still dealing. Every month more people retire. We're trying to get through that. We're getting a little bit of luck with refilling positions. So it's not just DDS. Every agency is facing this issue. So And Mickey, something that you had mentioned about, knowing this was coming and they didn't pull back. Well, they just did something which was really nice, but of course they did it too late. Governor Lamont, about a year ago, had said it would be great if we could match up managers to get equal or adequate pay increases when the unions got increases, because the unions always get them through the bargaining, but management staff sometimes went 5, 6, 7 years without any increase. But he's put something in place, so they just settled with the unions, and with that, all state managers have fallen into an increase. So it has, in the region, we've even got a couple people who have pulled their retirement papers because they found out, getting the increases, and it's a 3-year contract for the unions. So individuals will get, matching cost of living adjustments over the next 3 years. So I don't know if that helps a lot, but it helps a little for us.
So does that create a separate class of employees at this point, or?
No, it just
Okay.
means that, it used to be that, managers were, under a whole separate, they had no bargaining rights, and it would just be the governor and the legislature who would award either a cost of living adjustment or a pay increase of 2%, 2.5%, whatever. And it was always you never knew. I think we got one under the 8 years that Governor Malloy was in office. So, but Governor Lamont has felt that in order to keep good qualified people in state positions, we potentially needed to have something in place. So that it went through this time. So at least managers will get something up through, I think, 2024.
Okay.
Mhm.
Well, there's also this self-correcting cycle we're dealing with, if you've noticed the stock market lately, and
Yeah.
the idea of talking about the R word, not our R word, but the other R word.
Yeah, the retirement word.
And it's not a good way to solve the problem, but one would think there's going to be people who thought they had enough for retirement and now find that their 401k or IRA is reduced by 25%, and maybe they need to keep working. So there's that.
Yeah.
And hard to predict the future, but it's there are certainly signs of employment becoming a little different soon.
A little better.
Well, the idea that right now we have these millions of unfilled jobs in America,
Exactly. Yeah.
and we may not continue to have those unfilled jobs to that degree in the near
Exactly.
future.
It'd be nice to have like 2 people to choose from.
Yeah.
Instead of no people to choose from.
It's.
I have examples of jobs being posted. I'll give you an example. We had a couple nursing positions, and we had people all set to interview, and they blocked out the day, and nobody showed up.
Nobody showed up.
Okay.
Didn't even show
Can't
up for
tell
an
you
interview.
how often that is happening, Fritz.
And that's for that's for I know DDS is different than working in a big city hospital, but it was a good paying state position of a clinical nurse or a head nurse, and nobody showed up for the interview. And then we've had a couple where one person showed up, and of course you're like, well, all right, we'll make the offer, and then you make the offer and they say, nah, we'll keep looking, or we'll find something that'll pay better, or we want more flexibility, we don't want to work Saturday or Sunday. So yeah, there's a lot of variables that are causing people to work or not work, I guess.
Or worse than that, you go through all the paperwork required to get a person on your staff and they go through the checks and everything and first day of work, they don't show. That's,
Yep.
there's nothing more frustrated than that.
Yep.
So that's, unless anyone has any questions, that's pretty much where we are, what we're attempting to do.
Mhm.
Have more individuals been able to return to day programs despite the shortage, of staff and stuff?
There is nothing open. Nothing open. I was finally able to get one, and I don't even know if it's official yet, but one kid I found one opening because one of my clients moved. And so I quickly got in there and said, I've got somebody to fill the spot. And it's the only reason that this kid is getting, and it's in Bridgeport. They haven't decided officially if they're going to accept them because there's behaviors, and they have to hire a new staff in order to do this. And the new staff person wants to know what kind of behaviors we're talking about. But at least, it's hope that there is something opening for this kid because he cannot be home with his mother alone. He just can't.
And, there are some day programs that are doing a little better, but it's really, it's agency to agency. Some are doing better. It could be the area of the state, or it could also just be that program is just not attracting people, so. But
See, I'm not finding that, Fritz. I have so many kids that are aging out, so many, and their parents are freaking out because they can't find any place that's taking kids. So if you have a list of those places, I'd love to have it because I've had parents call virtually everything in the state, even ridiculous, travel time and whatever, and they can't find anything. When I see the Kennedy Center start to take new people, I'll know that we're over the hump.
Immigration.
Yeah, you said that. I was just reading your comments, Mickey, from the last meeting. You said it was a great line, hiring immigrants to cover shortages. Yes.
But it's a political nightmare, apparently.
I know.
All right, so, any new or old business to bring before the council, anyone?
Immigrants.
Immigrants, we're not gonna solve that problem. I don't think, if we could, we'd be very powerful. All
Run
right,
for something.
Hey, Eunice, pause the recording. Pause the recording.
It goes, don't forget, it goes way back.
I didn't say it.
It's one of the key songs in Hamilton.
There you go. We got the job done.
Yeah, you're right.
Right, so.
All right, so hearing no additional business to bring before the council. Eunice, am I correct that this is the next meeting is September?
That is correct.
All right, so that
September
concludes
15th.
our session for the first half of the year. And we will reconvene as a council in September, and, feel free to email or otherwise use electronic communication between now and then. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move
Anyone?
that.
Okay? Second?
Second.
Second, there
Yep.
being a motion to adjourn, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Enjoy the summer, everybody.
Yep.
Yes, all right.
Take care. Bye,
Yes,
guys.
Bye.
thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
now. Thanks, Eunice.